What's up, guys? So I'm just kind of bored here and I thought I would make a little video because I am going to upgrade this Commodore PC-10 from 1985, and I wanted to upgrade it to a dual disk drive. So we're going to see about moving the hard drive from here to over here in this next slot and have dual floppy disks, because I do have another 5 1/4 floppy over here, and I've got actually quite a few of them out in the garage because I have many of these spare units. But basically this slot here was for the bigger hard drives, because they did come with like huge Seagate hard drives, and that's where they would have sat. And then when you upgraded that, I guess these were like later on, these are quite a bit smaller, and I'll show it to you when I get this out. And the smaller drives would have went over here, of course, and then you've got your LED for the hard drive here instead of up here. I think that, if I remember correctly, this one's the power and this one should be the hard drive activity, and you can see it's just kind of routed right here, and they normally just tie it around that bracket, but I've untied it now. So I'm going to take this slot out, see about moving this over, take this whole faceplate off completely, and then see about hooking that LED onto the hard drive, and then putting in a second drive, and then we'll set the jumpers and I'll show you how to do that. But this ribbon cable is set for a second drive. And then of course this is the hard drive controller over here, and so that controls the hard drive, and we don't have to worry about nothing about that. I'll just be basically moving the hard drive from there to here and put it in a second floppy. And that should, what that's going to allow me to do, if you're wondering why I put a second floppy on here, that's going to allow me to copy floppies. So I can actually put one in drive A and one in B and then hit copy, and it'll copy it, and that would be nice to be able to have that feature. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Alright, so now you can see the hard drive that is underneath here. And it's quite a bit smaller. Normally the hard drives that came in these originally were as wide as these brackets, whereas this one is a small one. I'd almost say that's about the size of the normal hard drives and computers nowadays. I forget what they are, like 3.5s or something, or yeah, I think they're 3.5 inch. But they are a little bit thicker still, of course, because they're old. Alright, so here's a better look at it. It's a ST24, and then it's got a bunch of stuff about the cylinders and everything on it. And yeah, you can see the chip down there. And in this time, you know, they had these large chips on them because of course chips were larger then, and the boards for them are larger, but really the hard drives were something of their own. They were almost as powerful as just the computer, the motherboard itself, you know, and that's why they had to have all the stuff on here, plus they had to have their own controller board back here, because it's, you know, a system of its own, not whereas now everything's on the motherboard that controls the hard drives, you know. And when I've had this out one other time just to clean this whole thing, but you really got to be careful with these, because you cannot get these hard drives anymore, and if you do find them, they're probably not going to be working, and if you do find them working, they're probably not going to be working long. So yeah, I've really got to be careful with it. Basically, I'm going to take off this bracket. It's got 2 screws, and then it's got the LED connector that I will unhook there, and then we'll see about hooking it up to the LED over there, which I'm hoping is somewhere around the same pins. It looks like, if I look at it now, it's 3 pins, but that's okay. We can possibly just pop this LED out of there like that and then transfer it to the front. And the only other difference is this is going to have to be hooked up over here. I'll have to take out the RAM board here, and then I can get to these 2 screws here, and it'll only be hooked in by 2 screws instead of the normal 4. So I will really, if I ever move this, I need to make sure I do not flip it over or jolt it anyway, because I don't want this, you know, one side flexing up and slamming, which it shouldn't if it's all tied in, but you never know, so just got to be careful. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and get this RAM board out. And here's what 640K of RAM looks like, you know, whereas most computers nowadays have a minimum of like 2 gigs to anywhere from like I got 16 gigs in my normal one. This has 640K, which is just over half a megabyte. So plugs into the board by this connector here and stands up tall. And I've actually got a few extra ones of these because some of the other boards I have out there got bad RAM chips and some of them are good, so apparently these do go bad, so it's good to have some extras. So I'm definitely going to take a lot of them computers apart and just, you know, keep extra parts. The only thing I won't need an extra of is the case itself. And another thing, I'll have to get a splitter for these because these only come with 2 Molex connectors for the power. So what I'll do is I've got a connector that'll split it, and I'll grab that and put it in here. But I think what I want to do first is check out how this LED is, because right now it's got a 3-pin on here, and we're not going to be able to hook up a 3-pin because on the bottom of here it's only 2-pin for the activity LED. So we'll probably just run that wire right up here to the front, and which it should reach. I think it'll reach just fine. Let me see. Maybe it won't reach, so we might have to extend that wire to get it to reach, but that won't be too big a deal. So we're going to go ahead and take off this front panel and look at what it looks like here. Alright, so now we can get a look at what this looks like. And it looks like that LED is actually part of this. So I don't think we're going to be able to just push that right out of the front there. Let's see if we can get that out of there. Either by cutting it and forcing it, because I'm not going to ever need this, because this is for the old hard drive and we won't ever need it. So I'm going to probably cut it, push it out the front, and then take this one and cut it and push the wires in, and then we'll just hot glue it from the back or glue it in some way. So yeah, let's go ahead and cut it, because this one's not being used anyway and we're not ever going to need it, because there's just no reason to put an old one back in here. So now all we can do is hope that that LED isn't glued into there while I try to force it out here. Probably get this smaller flathead and push it right out. Alright, so after a little bit of persuasion, we got it out cleanly, and now the hole's empty and we have the LED here. I'm not sure why it had 3 wires. I guess one was a power, one was a ground, and one was like activity, you know. So whereas this light stays on only activity, so otherwise it goes off. I think this one stayed on normally and then it went off or started blinking with activity. So anyway, just the back is a little bit messed up. No big deal, it's going to be inside. The front side is clean. So now we can really see the size of the LEDs, and they are dead on match exact. So I'll just be able to lengthen this wire and we'll place it right back onto there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll be back. Alright, so I've got the new LED there on the front, and I've got it coming out the back, and I just used a little bit of hot glue to hold it in place. I don't know what kind of glue they used originally. It wasn't hot glue, but some kind of manufacturing adhesive or something. I left the wire quite long, that way I can, it's almost as long as the other one, I guess, that's hanging here, that just runs down to the board. I just left it quite long so it would kind of match in there, and then I did the same kind of heat shrink that they got here, so it really matches well. Just, you know, lengthen the wire. I did have these connectors, but I didn't feel like messing with the little crimps, because there's inside here there's pins, and then you got to crimp them on there, and it's a big ordeal. I have all the stuff to do it, but if I don't have to, I'm not gonna. It's just a tedious little crimping device, and it's super annoying. Alright, so now that that's done, I'll go ahead and put this front back on. We'll tidy up the wires and put the hard drive in. Alright, the front's back on. We're going to go ahead and hook the LED light back up. And if I remember correctly, the black went on this side. So there's the drive hooked back up. And we'll hook up the other connector here. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my splitter for this. Alright, so I've got my splitter here, and I'll just plug that in. Now we're ready to hook up 2 drives. I need to actually order some more of these. I had to take this one out of another computer that I don't really use the computer anyway, so I'll just have to put it back in there for if I ever do need to use it. Those are handy to have for older computers that don't have a lot of these Molex adapters. Alright, so now we're going to install the B drive. So this isn't the original drive that was in here. This is a different one. Same thing, just not the same one. Basically on these, you've got a bunch of pins here, and it kind of tells you drive select, but it starts with 0, 1, 2, 3. The 0 pin is the one I believe that lets the drive be on and powered and writable. And then the number 2 pin here, you put the number 2 on, would be the one that enables drive A. And then the third one enables drive B. So this one's still set to drive A. So what we're going to do is pull that off there. It's quite hard, even though I do have fingernails. There we go. We're going to move it to the B setting. So now we are set for the B drive. So now we're going to slip this in here just like that. Line it up. Connect our first connector. And this is before, like these are the original, I forget how many pin they are, like 38 or something like that, 36 pin connectors. This is before the new drives where the floppies, they put a twist in the cable, and you can actually hook one of these old drives up to a new computer if you've got the right connector and you've got the right Molexes, or no, the right connectors, because a lot of the new cables will have this connector, which is the old 5 1/4 connector. Then it'll have the new connector for the 3 1/2 floppies, and then you can hook up both of them if you want. But it'll have, sometimes it'll have 2, one of each above a twist in the line, and there'll be a twist right here. Then it'll have 2 below, and that lets you select drive A and B just by the positioning on the cable. Whereas these old drives, the cable is just straight through, no twist in here, and then you select the drive A or B on here, which they went to the twist cable to make it easier for people to do it themselves and not have to worry about technical issues and that kind of thing that arose from not setting their jumpers correctly, because new floppies do not have jumpers on them, and that is the reason why, because it's easier for people nowadays. So but we know how to set it, because you know, it's got the numbers on there, but it's not really straightforward. You just kind of got to know. So there is both of our drives installed, and both of them now have power. And I have cleaned both of these drives, so we shouldn't have any problem reading anything. And I have lubed everything, so everything's been re-greased. So now we'll tuck that down in there. We'll tuck these cables, because now these cables stick up just a tad bit more since our drive is down there now, a lot closer, so we need to kind of work everything down a little bit so the cover doesn't catch it. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and start putting the screws back in that hold the drives in place. Alright, so now we have 2 floppies and our hard drive moved, and everything is back together with our LED in the front instead of down here now. And I'm going to go ahead and put the cover back on, and we'll get it booted up. Alright, now that it's all back together, I thought I'd give you a quick tour of the Commodore PC-10. You can see there is the badge for it. We've got the power LED, the hard drive LED, 2 floppies. We've got the Commodore logo. And nothing really going on either of the sides. There's actually a case screw here on each side, 2 on this side, 2 on the other side, 1 in the middle, and that's to get this cover off. So now I'll go ahead and spin this around. That way you guys can get a look at the back of it and see what's going on here. Not a lot, but there's the power supply, just a simple on and off switch, 3-prong power adapter. You've got your RS-232C port. I'm not 100% what that was for. Then you've got a Centronics port. I believe that was for printers. And then you've got your VGA adapter here, and then one of these slots is your hard drive adapter for your hard drive. And then I think there's just 2 or 3 free ISA slots in there that you could use. I don't have anything to plug into them, but yeah. So let me go ahead and get the monitor set up here, and I'll give you a quick tour of the Commodore monitor. Alright, so this is the Commodore video monitor, model 1902A. And this was pretty good for its time. If I can kind of get out of the light here. It was pretty good for its time. It's got the power button here. You've got a Commodore logo there. Then you've got your hue adjustment, your brightness, your contrast, your color, your sharpness, your volume. And then here you've got your RGB and your green. So you can actually press this and it would change to green if you wanted it instead of a color. If you wanted to do some like typing programs, I guess people like to type with the green better. So it'd go to like the old green color, and I'm not sure what it switches between when it does RGB and CVBS. I think that's a different cable. You know, if you had like a different computer hooked up, you could do that. And yeah, you could press that in. It's normally pressed out because it is the PC-10 here is an RGB adapter. Then this is kind of neat here. This is just optional. This is just a little stand that if you flip it down, it'll tuck in there, and you don't have to use it. So, and then on one side or the other, I forget which, there's a speaker in here. Both sides have grills, like you could put a double speaker in there, I guess. But only one side actually has the speaker. So we'll flip it around here. And like I said, these are pretty sought after monitors, especially in working condition. You can see there a little bit of information about it. And the reason they're kind of sought after is because you can hook up different stuff to them. So you've got a button here that's for comb defeat. No idea what it does. You've got a CVBS in, so that's another video mode for like composite video. I think, yeah, that's what that switch would be in the front, to switch between RGB and composite. And then you've got an audio in, so you could actually hook up like a PS1 or an old Atari or something to this that had that composite connector, like a NES console, because it is basically a TV, but you know, it's a video monitor as well. Then you've got your number 1 and 2 input ports. I don't know what the difference is. I know this one's your RGB because it goes from a VGA adapter on the back, the RGB adapter, to this, and that's what that plugs in. This, I don't know what that other plug would be because they're actually different in there. I don't know if you can see, this one's got more holes. That one's got 3, 4, 5 on the outside circle and 1 in the middle, whereas this one has 7 on the outside and 1 in the middle. And then over here you've got a button called VCR. I don't know what that does. You've got a knob for vertical height adjustment, vertical center, horizontal, and then horizontal width on the end. So you've got quite a few. And this monitor was manufactured in November of 1986. So the PC-10 was from 85 and the monitor was 86. Because I don't think this was the original model that came with it. I've kind of got all this stuff out here in the way, so. But you can see up here, this is the original ad. Whoops, that would have been in the computer. Or been in a magazine for it. You can see kind of what it says there if you want to pause it. But you can see there in the picture that that was the original monitor that came with it. And they've even got double disk drives in there, which is really what made me want to do this. And then I don't have that original Commodore keyboard. They're about $85 to $100 online to get one. But I do have a keyboard that fits, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, this would have been the original ad from 85 that would have been in a magazine. Just kind of talking about what it is and everything. Alright, so that's kind of a tour of the outside. Let's go ahead and plug it in and power it on, and I'll give you a tour of what's going on the inside.